Have you ever felt peaceful in nature and then wondered why that peace disappears the moment you return to normal life? Have you ever asked yourself why the modern world can measure the planet in data and still treat it like a disposable backdrop? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are stepping into a message about reconnecting with nature and reconnecting with your inner being. As if these are not two separate projects, but one single path. Because the deeper we look, the more we see that the environmental crisis is also an inner crisis. And the inner crisis is also an environmental crisis. The first idea is that the feeling of separation is one of the most expensive illusions humanity has ever believed, because it turns the living world into an object and turns the human heart into an isolated consumer. The second idea is that real change becomes possible when compassion and wisdom reshape daily habits, because habits are where karma is planted, and karma is how destiny is built. Let us begin with a simple scene that many people know but rarely reflect on. A person walks into a forest or a park or a coastline. The wind touches the face. The air feels different. The eyes soften. The body exhales. The mind, which was clenched all morning, suddenly opens. For a few minutes, there is no argument inside. No need to prove anything. No need to win. No need to perform. Just presence. Then the person returns to daily life. Notifications, deadlines, noise, comparison, speed. The mind tightens again. The person feels a strange sadness. Why did that calm feel so real out there? And why does it feel so hard to carry it back here? This is the doorway into the teaching. The calm you felt in nature is not only a nice feeling. It is a clue. It is a clue that the mind can relax when it stops defending a false boundary. The boundary that says I am here and the world is out there. The teaching we are exploring today is that the boundary is partly true at the level of skin and biology, but deeply misleading at the level of relationship and reality, because every breath you take is borrowed. Every sip of water is borrowed. Every meal is borrowed. The human body is not a separate thing that floats above nature. The human body is nature, arranged in a particular form for a short time. So when we say reconnect with nature, we are also saying reconnect with the truth of your own being. And when we say reconnect with your inner being, we are also saying reconnect with the larger living world, because the inner life does not exist without the outer web that supports it. Now imagine someone speaking from a place of both spiritual practice and social awareness. The person is not trying to make you feel guilty. The person is trying to make you see clearly, because clarity is kinder than shame. Shame collapses the heart. Clarity opens the heart. So the speaker invites a question that sounds almost too basic. What if the environmental crisis is not only about technology and policy, but also about how we experience ourselves? At first, that might sound abstract, but it becomes very practical when you realize how perception shapes behavior. If you experience yourself as a separate, isolated unit, you will protect your comfort first. You will treat the earth as a warehouse of resources and a sink for waste. You will chase more because you will feel empty. You will compare constantly because you will feel insecure. You will buy constantly because you will feel restless. You will seek control constantly because you will feel afraid. But if you experience yourself as interdependent, you will make different choices. You will waste less naturally. You will feel gratitude more easily. You will accept limits without humiliation. You will see that harming the earth is not only immoral, it is self-harm in slow motion. This is why the inner being matters. Now let me tell you a story, because the mind understands stories more deeply than concepts. There is a person named Camille. Camille lives a modern life that looks normal from the outside. Camille is busy, connected, productive, and constantly informed. Camille has opinions on everything, but inside, Camille feels a quiet dryness, not depression exactly, not panic exactly, more like a numb restlessness that never fully goes away. Camille goes on a short trip, not for spiritual reasons, just to get away. Camille ends up near mountains and water. The first morning, Camille wakes early and steps outside. The air is cold and clean. The sky is wide. Camille hears birds and wind. The phone is still inside. For a moment, Camille feels something almost forgotten. A feeling of belonging, not belonging to a group, belonging to life. Camille feels the body as part of the world rather than an object moving through it. Camille feels small, and instead of feeling ashamed, Camille feels relieved. The pressure to be important softens. The constant mental noise lowers. Camille breathes more deeply without trying. Later that day, Camille walks near water and watches light move across the surface. Camille realizes that attention can be simple and satisfying. No purchase required. No applause required. No argument required. That evening, Camille sits quietly unsees an uncomfortable truth. So much of my normal life is built around trying to fill a hunger I never named. Camille returns home and tries to keep the feeling, but the city pulls hard. The old patterns return. Scroll, rush, compare, consume. Camille feels the calm fading and gets frustrated. Then Camille hears a talk about reconnecting with nature and inner being. The speaker says something that changes the frame. Do not try to keep a feeling. Train a relationship. This is huge because feelings come and go. Relationships can deepen. So Camille begins training a relationship with nature and a relationship with inner life. The way you would train a relationship with a friend. You show up regularly. You listen. You stop trying to control everything. You become honest. You offer care. Camille starts small. I daily walk with the phone in a pocket, not in the hand. A few minutes of looking at a tree, not as decoration, but as a living being doing the work of turning sunlight into breath. A moment of gratitude for water before drinking. A pause before buying something impulsively, asking what feeling am I trying to purchase. This is where karma enters the story in a very direct way. Karma means cause and effect, not a cosmic punishment. A pattern. When Camille is stressed, Camille consumes. That is a cause. The effect is more waste and more emptiness, because consumption rarely cures the inner hunger that created it. When Camille pauses, breathes, and reconnects, Camille consumes less. That is a cause. The effect is less waste and more peace. So the inner training changes outer behavior. Outer behavior changes outer impact. Outer impact changes collective conditions. Collective conditions return as experiences. The loop is complete. Inner and outer are not separate. This is the gift to the earth, not a dramatic speech, a shifted pattern of living. Now let us explore the heart of the illusion that blocks this reconnection. The illusion is separation. Separation shows up in language. My life, my success, my time, my comfort, my future. The word my is not wrong, but the mood of my can become a cage. It can turn the world into a set of objects for the self to manage. And when the self feels anxious, it tries to manage harder, more control, more consumption, more distraction. But the self that is trying to manage everything is not the deepest self. It is a constructed self, built out of fear and craving and social conditioning. It is the self that thinks it must be impressive to be safe. It is the self that thinks it must be ahead to be worthy. It is the self that thinks it must win to be real. When you reconnect with nature, that constructed self gets quieter. You feel the deeper self, the self that can simply be present, the self that does not need to perform, the self that can care. In Buddhist language, this is close to seeing through the illusion of a fixed separate self, not as a philosophy game, but as a lived relief. And the relief has consequences. When the false self loosens, you become less driven by craving. When craving weakens, consumption weakens. When consumption weakens, harm weakens. This is why inner awakening is environmental action. Now let us talk about compassion, because compassion is the bridge between insight and action. Some people learn about climate and get scared. Fear can motivate briefly, but fear often produces either panic or denial. Panic burns out, denial numbs out. Neither is stable. Compassion is different. Compassion says suffering matters. Compassion says beings matter. Compassion says the future is not a concept, it is a life that will be lived. Compassion can hold fear without being ruled by it. Compassion can hold grief without collapsing. Compassion can act steadily without hatred. So a spiritual response to the earth is not only about recycling habits. It is about cultivating a compassionate heart that can stay present with reality. Now let me tell a second story, because many people struggle with the question of scale. 18 named Jordan hears about climate change and feels overwhelmed. Jordan thinks, my choices are tiny. What can I do? Jordan feels anger at adults, anger at companies, anger at leaders. Jordan scrolls and argues online, then feels exhausted. Jordan then attends a community event where people talk about inner practice and outer action. Someone says, do not underestimate the power of one steady mind. Jordan does not believe it at first, but then Jordan sees how emotions shape everything. When Jordan is angry, Jordan says harsh things and creates conflict. Conflict destroys cooperation. Without cooperation, nothing large can be solved. When Jordan is calm, Jordan listens better. Listening builds bridges. Bridges allow collaboration. Collaboration allows solutions. So Jordan realizes the mind is not private. The mind is part of the ecosystem. Jordan begins practicing a simple daily routine. 1 minute of breathing before checking the phone. 1 moment of gratitude for water and food. 1 small act of care for nature. Maybe picking up litter. Maybe conserving energy. Maybe walking when possible. Maybe reducing waste. 1 act of kindness toward another person. Because social compassion builds the cooperation needed for environmental action. Jordan notices something. The anxiety reduces slightly. The helplessness reduces. The urge to argue reduces. The sense of meaning grows. Meaning is a powerful medicine, because meaning helps you endure. And endurance is what the earth needs from humans. Not 1 week of enthusiasm, years of steady care. So reconnecting with nature is also reconnecting with meaning. Now let us look at the phrase, our gift to the earth. Many people assume the earth needs our help like a weak patient. But the earth is powerful. The earth has survived massive changes before humans existed. The deeper truth is that the earth will continue in some form. But the conditions that allow human civilization and countless species to thrive are delicate. So the gift is not saving the earth as if we are heroes. The gift is reducing harm and increasing care so life can flourish with less suffering. That gift begins with restraint. Restraint is a word people dislike because it sounds like deprivation. But spiritual restraint is freedom. It is freedom from compulsive craving. When you restrain impulse buying, you gain peace. When you restrain harsh speech, you gain better relationships. When you restrain doom scrolling, you gain clarity. When you restrain waste, you gain respect for life. So restraint is not punishment. Restraint is wisdom. Now let us connect restraint to joy, because many people fear that sustainable living means a gray life with no pleasure. But the deeper joy is not in endless consumption. The deeper joy is in presence, connection, simplicity, and gratitude. Nature teaches this easily. A sunrise costs nothing. A breeze costs nothing. Birdsong costs nothing. The feeling of walking in clean air costs nothing. The mind that can enjoy these simple gifts is rich. The mind that cannot enjoy anything without purchasing is poor, even in luxury. So the inner being we are reconnecting with is the being that can enjoy simple life without needing constant stimulation. That is liberation. And liberation has environmental benefits automatically. Now we should address a painful truth. Many people are disconnected not because they are evil, but because they are exhausted. Stress pushes people into survival mode. Survival mode shortens time horizons. When you are barely getting through the week, the future can feel like someone else's problem. So compassion must include compassion for the exhausted. A wise environmental response does not shame exhausted people. It supports them. It builds community. It improves mental health. It creates systems where sustainable choices are easier and cheaper and more accessible. This is why inner practice and outer justice belong together. If you want people to care, they need some safety and dignity. So the gift to the earth includes the gift to each other. Now let us bring this to the deepest spiritual point. Reconnection is not only about nature as scenery. Reconnection is about seeing interbeing. Interbeing means your life is woven into other lives. The food you eat came from soil and sunlight. The clothes you wear came from cotton fields or factories and labor. The electricity you use came from systems that have impacts. The waste you create goes somewhere. When you truly see this, you cannot live carelessly in the same way. You do not become perfect, but you become awake. And awakening is what changes history. Awakening is what changes karma. Awakening is what changes destiny. Because destiny is not only what happens to you. Destiny is who you become through repeated choices. A person who repeats distraction becomes scattered. A person who repeats gratitude becomes content. A person who repeats cruelty becomes hard. A person who repeats compassion becomes warm. A society that repeats greed becomes unstable. A society that repeats restraint becomes resilient. So when you reconnect with nature and inner being, you are choosing a different destiny for yourself and contributing to a different destiny for the world. Now I want to close by bringing it back to you in a simple way. You do not need to move to a forest to reconnect. You can reconnect through small daily acts of attention. Look at the sky for 10 seconds. Touch a tree and remember it is alive. Drink water and remember it traveled to you through a living system. Eat one meal with gratitude. Pause before buying and ask, what am I trying to fill? Breathe before reacting and ask, what reduces suffering? These are not small spiritual gestures. They are the seeds of a new way of living. And if enough people plant these seeds, systems shift, not overnight, but steadily. That steadiness is the real gift. A steady mind, a compassionate heart, a wise pattern of living. Less harm, more care, more community, more truth. So, if you have felt disconnected, do not shame yourself. Just begin again. One breath, One step outside, one moment of presence, one act of care. Then repeat. Thank you for spending this time with me. Share in the comments a moment when nature made you feel more alive and what habit you want to change so that feeling can become part of your daily life. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment to support this community. And I will see you in the next one.